When you hear the word accountability, what comes to mind? What do you feel? For most of us, and this is including me, there's an instinctive reaction. It's a little anxiety, maybe a knot in the stomach. And it's because in most organizations, accountability doesn't show up until something goes wrong. It's the word that precedes a hard conversation. It's the write-up, a performance improvement plan, a pull aside that nobody asks for. And here's the problem with that. If the people in your organization, your supervisors, your team members, your frontline leaders, if they feel that same knot every time they hear that word, it's costing you. It's costing you in conversations that never happen, in problems that fester quietly because nobody wants to be the one to bring it up, and a team that's learned to manage appearances rather than actually perform. Today, we're going to change how you think about accountability. We're going to give you the system that changes how your entire organization experiences it. Well, welcome back to the Frontline Leadership Podcast, where we help organizations strengthen and empower the leaders their operations depend on. I'm your host, Craig Coyle, former Apache helicopter pilot, aerospace leader, and founder of Operation Lead. Today, we're talking about one of the most misunderstood words in organizational leadership and the system that changes how your entire team experiences it. So let's get into it. Here's the version of accountability most organizations are running on. Something goes wrong. A standard gets missed. A behavior becomes a problem. And the supervisor steps in with a conversation or a warning or a corrective action plan. That's the trigger. That's when accountability shows up. And I want to be honest with you about something because I came up in a culture where this was the model and it was taken seriously. In the military, accountability is swift, it's clear, it's not optional. When something goes wrong, someone owns it and steps in, full stop. That discipline's real and it produces real results, but it also produces something else. It produces a team that's motivated primarily by not getting caught, that learns to avoid being wrong rather than learning to be better, that stays quiet when something's off because the cost of being associated with a problem feels higher than the cost of letting it slide. What I've realized since I left the military is that this dynamic isn't exclusive to the military. It shows up in almost every organization. Most frontline supervisors have only ever experienced accountability as correction. So when they step into a leadership role, that's the only tool in the toolbox. And it creates one of two failure patterns. The first one's avoidance. The supervisor doesn't want to be the bad guy, doesn't want the conflict, doesn't know how to have the conversation without it feeling like an attack, so they avoid it. And then standards slip, problems compound, the team reads the silence as permission. Number two is micromanagement. The supervisor doesn't trust the team to hold itself to anything, so they hold everything manually. They constantly check, they follow up on every task, they're everywhere. And the team stops thinking for themselves because they've learned that the supervisor is just going to do it for them. Go and walk the floor, and I bet you'll see both patterns playing out right before your eyes. And here's what their common ground is. Accountability was never defined as anything other than correction. And when that's the only version your supervisors know, you'll always be fighting this battle. So before we go any further, let's define the word correctly. Accountability is the process by which a team or individual is held to a standard. It's not a consequence, not a conversation you dread, a process or a system. And like anything, it has two sides. The first side is what most of us know. I call it negative accountability, correction, consequence, performance management. It's real and it's necessary. It's not going away, but it's a floor, not a ceiling. It's the minimum standard, not the goal. What we dive in today is not meant to replace this type of accountability. It's meant to complement it. The second side is what most organizations have never intentionally built. Positive accountability. The climate where teammates push each other forward, where the relationship between a supervisor and a team member has clear mutual lines of communication, where being held to something feels like investment rather than punishment. Let me give you a picture of what positive accountability looks like in practice. In military aviation, before every single flight, the crew briefs. Every person in that cockpit knows the mission, knows their role, knows what the person next to them is responsible for, And during that flight, not after it, not in the debrief, but during it, they hold each other to the standard in real time. A call out, a cross check, a reminder of the procedure. That's not punishment. That's professionalism. The standard is the same as it would be in any corrective conversation, but the experience of being held to it is completely different because it's expected, it's mutual, and it's built into how a team operates every single day. That's the version your organization needs to build. Same standard, but held differently. There's a hard truth about positive accountability, though. You cannot will it into existence. You cannot give a great speech about culture and then watch it magically appear. You cannot hire for it and hope it takes root on its own. Like everything else we talk about on this podcast, worthwhile outcomes require intentional investment. Positive accountability is downstream of infrastructure. Build the right systems and the culture follows. Skip the systems, and you'll be giving the same speech about accountability every quarter for the rest of your career. We've already started building those systems together. If you haven't listened to episodes 20 and 21 yet, I'd encourage you to go back. But here's what you need to know for today. Over the last several episodes, we've laid the first two pieces of what I call the Preflight Accountability Cadence. Today, we're adding the two that make the whole system hold. Let's start with where we've already been. A quick review. The first piece is the mission. You cannot hold someone accountable for a standard they don't know exists. The mission is the North Star. It's the clear shared purpose that the entire team is oriented around. What we're doing, why it matters, and what success looks like. Without it, personal accountability is built on a foundation of sand. Just a supervisor enforcing individual duties that aren't tied to anything. But with it, accountability becomes something the whole team has a stake in. Piece 2 is the crew brief. It's the recurring meeting that brings the mission to the floor in real time. It creates shared situational awareness. Everyone knows the priorities, the obstacles, what the team is collectively working toward today. And most importantly, how each fit into the greater team's choreography. And here's why this matters for accountability specifically. When everyone in the room knows the same thing, peer accountability becomes possible. It allows each team member to understand who and what their inputs are influencing and why. You can't hold each other accountable to something you don't understand at all. The crew brief is what makes the standard visible to the whole team every single day and rallies them around that standard. Now let's move a layer deeper and go from the team to the individual. Piece 3 is crew responsibilities. This is where accountability becomes personal at the team level. Crew responsibilities are not job descriptions. They're the specific daily and weekly key tasks that define what success looks like for each person on the team in their role for this mission right now. What does this person need to do each day for this team to win? When that clarity exists, accountability isn't just fair, it's energizing. There's no ambiguity about what someone was supposed to do. Most leaders think it's their job to set direction and their subordinate's job to execute off that direction. That's a recipe for confusion and frustration. The leader must own the burden of explicitly transcribing their responsibilities into tangible responsibilities and tasks for their direct reports. And the military units don't just receive their higher headquarters mission and figure out what they need to do. No, they're explicitly given a subordinate mission within that higher mission. That's the leader's job. And piece 4 is the one-on-one. If the crew brief addresses the team, the one-on-one addresses the individual. And it's not a status update. If the entire meeting is a report on what happened, you've held a debrief, not a development conversation. It's also not a performance ambush. If the only time a supervisor calls a one-on-one is when something's wrong, the team member learns to dread the calendar invite. Trust erodes, the relationship deteriorates, and it's not a 45-minute calendar drain. The instinct to make these meetings long and comprehensive is exactly what kills them. Long meetings get canceled. Canceled meetings create distance. A one-on-one is a focused 10 to 15 minute weekly or bi-weekly touchpoint. Short by design because short meetings actually happen. It's the space where responsibilities and priorities get reviewed, performance gets acknowledged, and roadblocks are discussed. And here's the piece most leaders miss entirely. It requires preparation from both parties, not just the team members. The one-on-one is not just the supervisor holding the team member accountable. It's the weekly or bi-weekly opportunity to audit the level of clarity, direction, and purpose driving the relationship. Done right, it runs both directions. What do you need from me that I haven't been provided? How can I help unblock you on any projects or tasks? These questions, when asked consistently, separate a supervisor who manages from a leader who develops. So here's the full picture, and the pattern worth noticing too. At every level of this cadence, the leader has two jobs. First, they have to do the work of creation, defining what the standard actually is. That's the mission and the crew responsibilities. And then second, they have to do the work of communicating, building the recurring structure that makes that standard visible and actionable. That's the crew brief and the one-on-one. Creation without communication is a document nobody reads. Communication without creation is a meeting with nothing real behind it. You need both at the collective level and at the individual level. Mission and crew brief work together at the team level. Crew responsibilities and one-on-ones work together at the individual level. Together, these four components create a system that breeds positive accountability through clarity, direction, and purpose. That's your Preflight Accountability Cadence. When these four components are in sync with each other and running effectively, something shifts. The supervisor stops being the enforcer and they become the enabler. The emotional weight of accountability moves off their shoulders and onto the system where it belongs. The team stops dreading the accountability conversation because it's being had proactively, not retroactively. The expectation gets set, the check-ins happen, the standard is always visible. What used to feel like micromanagement or confrontation becomes a routine part of how the team operates. And the culture that emerges, slowly, consistently over time, is not one where people are afraid to miss. It's one where they're invested enough in each other and the mission that they don't want to. That's what you're building. This is where it starts. If you want a practical starting point for building this cadence with your supervisors, download the Leaders Preflight Checklist at operationlead.com/checklist. It's free. It's built around everything we've covered today, and it will give your supervisors a concrete place to begin. And if you're a senior leader ready to build an organization running on positive accountability, it all hinges on how you prepare and empower your leaders. Head to operationlead.com to request a call to learn about our system and process today. Next week, we're leaning into the accountability conversation most supervisors avoid, the difficult ones, and why avoiding them is costing your team more than you think. But until then, I'm Craig Coyle, and this is the Frontline Leadership Podcast. Let's